Welcome to episode 28 of They Might Be Self-Aware. I am Hunter Powers, joined as always by
Daniel Bishop. Hello, Hunter.
Daniel.
How are you doing?
I am doing. I have no idea. I'm gonna have to. If you could let me pause. I'm gonna go to ChatGPT and ask how am I doing.
Find out how you're doing.
We'll insert it in afterwards. But in the meantime, why don't we discuss our topics for today? What are they?
Rather than going to ChatGPT to find out how you're doing, you could always ask your Humane Pin, or I don't know if you actually have a Humane Pin. It looked almost exactly the same, but
yes,
you have a DIY Humane Pin. You're going to save some monthly dollars with a little bit of duct tape. And tell us how we can all do it too.
Well, speaking of these Humane Pins, are they even sticking around or just returning in droves?
That's right. And the AI smarts that they all have in them, we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to use them. Is doing so cheating? Does it matter? Do we need to just evolve to a society where that is no longer a case? And then, Hunter, you're going to drop a bombshell later this very episode about my quarterly reviews in a previous job.
I might have to edit that one out, but in the meantime, we will discuss the electric car showdown and Daniel's very personal dilemma after Tesla.
We will. And lastly, AI watermarking with a snap of my fingers like a specific purple movie star, and not a dinosaur. We're going to debate digital honesty. Would I make everything watermarked or nothing watermarked, or maybe somewhere in between?
It's all up next because you are listening to
They Might Be Self-Aware.
How's it going, Daniel?
Good, Hunter. For those of you listening, Hunter's got some duct tape. What are you doing?
Were you familiar with Humane at all?
Yeah, they had a pin, kind of her style, is going to like sit in your shirt pocket and be with you at all times. I
had pre-ordered it, but now I'm not so sure that the company's going to be sticking around much longer. So I'm attempting to build my own, which I think I can do with my Rabbit, which is now unbricked. We had an episode about it being bricked,
right?
And I think I mentioned casually that it is unbricked now.
Congrats.
Although technically it also is not working right now because it needs to have an update, and every time it needs an update, you cannot use it.
Right.
There's no grace period. You cannot use it until it updates, which may or may not brick it again. But this actually works.
A little bit of duct tape and a Rabbit, and you still have access to the buttons.
See it. I've got it duct taped to my shirt. It still has access to the camera.
You can't see the screen anymore, but the Humane Pin doesn't have a screen.
It talks to me, and the camera still has access. It stays up here. I can, if I don't know what I'm seeing, I can say, "Hey, Rabbit, describe the scene." I can ask questions.
A lot of sci-fi movies have people wearing silver suits, and I mean, the color of the duct tape honestly looks very futuristic, I'd say.
And no monthly fee, unlike Humane, which may have been one of their many missteps.
Depends on how much duct tape you use, I guess.
There actually isn't that much difference between adding a piece of duct tape to the Rabbit and the Humane Pin. I think it's way less than you would imagine. The amount of difference, and it doesn't overheat.
The Humane Pin does have the little projector on it, though.
I guess that I don't get the
time onto your hand,
which does look pretty cool. That the laser projector onto your hand. Although there were a lot of people very critical of it as well, but it's very suggestive of the future.
Very suggestive, yes. And honestly, again, what you've got going on, it's very suggestive.
People are going to think I'm cool
of a future. Yeah, that's right. They will definitely think that you're cool.
They won't think anything's wrong with me.
Is that a Game Boy strapped to your shirt?
No. It's a Rabbit R1. No.
Oh, what's that?
It's the future.
Okay, man. Cool. And that's how all those conversations are going to go. So you've got this thing strapped to you because you think Humane's not going to be sticking around too much longer. Why do you have such a negative outlook on humanity?
Well, some of their KPIs were recently leaked. Uh-oh. And apparently
what's a KPI for
key
those who aren't in
performance indicator? If you work in any sort of office environment, these things probably exist somewhere. Metrics that help track the health of a company. your revenue is probably the most obvious one. How much money's coming in? And apparently another metric is how many devices are being returned. And the returns are now outpacing the sales. They get more Humane Pins back every week than they sell. Now, on the good side, they don't need any more inventory ever because they have a cyclical cycle. They can sell it, just wait a couple weeks, and it comes right back.
Some Lysol, clean it off, and then ship it right back out.
But apparently that's not very economical.
Interesting. I mean, the folks over at Hertz and Budget Rent-A-Car, they have a set of units that you don't hold on to forever. You go, you rent the car.
Sure, but their model's not a rental model.
Maybe Humane just needs to turn into a LLM rental company.
Maybe. It was very expensive, and they never sold very many
just
to begin with.
Just like a car.
I think they only sold like 7,000 units to begin with, which, while 7,000 is a big number, it is a small number in the consumer electronics space. You would probably want to add at least two zeros onto that to suggest that there is an actual market there. If they came close-ish to 1 million units, then we'd be like, okay, there's something here. 7,000? No.
How many Rolls Royces are sold in a year, Hunter? Come on, the Humane Pin is the future, and Rolls Royces are this, this icon of being at the absolute epitome of I can afford the nicest cars out there. Look at me. Isn't the Humane Pin the same thing?
Well, if a Rolls cost the same as a Humane Pin, I think they'd sell a few more.
They sell a few more.
And I don't think they're being returned at the same rate either. So
do you think Rolls-Royce has like a subscription model where you have to pay X amount per month to
more
something?
and more cars are adopting the subscription model, including your favorite, the Tesla, which you will never, ever abandon.
I'm getting rid of it.
Uncle Elon gave you the free month of self-driving and you do this to him? Stab him in the back?
I won't say that was the straw for sure. It's probably more company image at this point. And I know I'm not alone in that case. Not to drag politics into it at all, but a company that makes cars should be a company that you're going to buy a car from and say, I've got this car.
Well, they're an AI company. Elon press released that, I think, last week. They now should be spoken as an AI company. But go ahead. Sorry.
This company that does happen to make cars, I think, is getting its image polluted a certain amount. Some people more so than others. I've seen plenty of reviews of people being into the Cybertrucks. For a variety of reasons, I think that my time with the Tesla is coming to an end.
And where might you be directing your navigational needs?
Well, it's going to be something electric for sure. I believe in the electric future.
Okay.
And that's the vision that Tesla sold me on originally, is that the future will be electric. There are a variety of options out there now. You've got VW with the new version of the electric bus coming out. Kia has a variety of different offerings. And speaking of companies that don't sell a tremendous number of units and maybe not necessarily at a profit, there's also folks like Rivian. And I've been eyeing them quite a bit. So I think that might be the next one. I see more
and more Rivians around.
They're very pretty looking cars.
Yeah.
They're still in the early days of the company.
They just released like a new version too, right?
Yes. So there was a drastic retooling of the car to try and bring costs down and bring complexity down. And so they've got their version 2 of the R1T and R1S models.
And does the Rivian have any self-driving? Or is it?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I will say, having actually gone and test driven a few other vehicles out there, I believe that Tesla still, with their regular autonomous driving, which I relegate to highway, keeping in a lane, even with curves, keeping distance with it. So the adaptive cruise control plus lane keeping feature. I love that. I think that that's 90% of what I would want. I do think there is a glorious future where I can fall asleep and just wake up at my destination. I don't think we're anywhere near that. We've talked about that plenty. Tesla's implementation is the best of the ones that I've seen of that level of autonomy. Rivian has a version of that isn't quite as expansive and not under quite as many circumstances. I know it's something that they're continuing to build out. And I wish them all the best with it, but I don't think that that is necessarily the seller for a vehicle. I'm not looking for a self-driving car because there isn't a self-driving car unless I get into a Waymo robotaxi and start going the wrong way down a construction site.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have the big computer monitor similar to Tesla in the car.
Everyone's got one of those these days. Yeah.
And they're developing their own platform / operating system similar to Tesla versus more adopting CarPlay or Android Auto as the foundation of their platform.
Which I am a little salty about. I do think
Tesla does the same thing.
They do. And I'd rather just have Android Auto, let's be honest. But I have seen the Rivian sort of infotainment system. They've really beefed up the capabilities of it, some fancy new graphics. Apparently that tech platform, not necessarily the actual like vehicle platform, but the tech platform and those smarts and know-how are associated with a very large deal that went through recently with VW. So I don't think Rivian's, speaking of companies maybe going away, Humane, I don't think Rivian's going away anytime soon. I do hope that they and Lucid and the others all get to a point where they are profitable.
Now, does Rivian have features that are just software features that you pay to unlock like the Tesla does?
I think there will be. Right now, they're saying that their autonomy platform is just, you get it. But I'm pretty sure that is going to go behind some sort of monthly paywall soon. And again, I'm not really buying a car for self-driving features, I think, at this point. I've tried them. I've tried the latest and greatest from Tesla. I've tried and really enjoyed their current kind of middle of the road option. They're impressive, but like I don't think that's what's going to be the buyer for me at this point.
I guess also slightly related is the reason why companies have these subscription platforms, that they want the recurring revenue. That
sure,
Wall Street really responds to recurring revenue.
You don't just sell
ARR. We'll stick with our KPIs. ARR, annual recurring revenue.
Right.
I'm thinking of selling these beautiful limited edition Rabbit R1 straps.
Yeah.
For a small. I'm going to need that subscription. It's going to be a subscription fee, but you'll get a new one every month because this. I imagine that over time the stickiness is going to go down. So people need a fresh one delivered.
It's planned obsolescence
to you once a month.
Yeah.
I don't know, like $19.99. Nothing crazy, I'm thinking. But yeah, $19.99. This seems reasonable. A month, by the way, not a year. It's on an annual.
I have $20. It's not even $20. It's $19.99.
Do people still say like the price of a Starbucks? Is that still a thing?
Sure.
I feel like we should have moved on from that.
3 cups of coffee.
The Starbucks comparison by now, but I don't feel like we have.
Well, I mean, to start thinking of like broader economic terms, there is a term in economics. I absolutely forget it right now. It would have been great if I had it on the tip of my tongue and I could have said it. But like there are specific things that you use as like keystones in the economy of we check how much this specific thing is going up and down. And that is kind of a weather bell, something to do with weather for the entire the entire country, the entire economy. Milk and eggs, I think, are like some of these absolute staples that you're always going to have. But if it's going to a restaurant or a coffee shop or something, I think a coffee is probably one of those things.
I have a controversial question for you. I want you to brace yourself before I breach this subject.
I'm strapping in with duct tape and everything.
It has been suggested that a primary use case of ChatGPT and maybe even large language models in general is a homework cheating machine. That this is where they're actually getting their real traction, is cheating on assignments. Are you shocked?
No, not even a little. Not even a little.
The youth of today.
No, I'm going to stop you right there, Hunter. The everyone of today. I've used ChatGPT to write emails. I've used ChatGPT to help come up with the bullet points that I should use for a presentation.
I used ChatGPT to write one of your performance reviews.
Did you? Well, I loved reading it.
Well, no. So what I would do for your performance reviews is I would write out like my big bullets, but then I needed to like the box was big, man. And I had
It was a pretty big box. Yeah.
Like got his work done, worked well, good attitude, Yeah. All right, now please turn this into 500 words because that's what I'm expected to write.
And I had no idea, really.
I think you complimented it. You're like, this.
Yeah. Oh, good job. Really love that. It brought a tear to my eye. People writing scholarly papers. I'm looking at a paper on archive.org where they talk about archive.org papers from 2019, 2020, 21, 22, and 23. And there are certain adjectives and other words that have gone like noticeably up in 2023 specifically. I guess nobody really caught on to do it in 2022. Relative frequency adverbs 2019 to 2023 meticulously from like a 1.0 sort of baseline to almost 2.5 of whatever that sort of rate is. Intricate, more than double. Meticulous, 1.5. Commendable, nearly twice as much. And that's for just a few of the words. Everybody's using ChatGPT to cheat at their homework. Kids have homework where here is a paper that you have to fill out. What is this math thing? What is the capital of Idaho? Whatever those are. Kids cheating on homework is the exact same thing everybody else is doing. So no, I'm not surprised at all because I'm cheating on my homework at work, which is to say, yeah, it helps me draft out an email. It helps me do this. It helps me do that. It's doing what it's supposed to do.
Related to this, it is rumored that OpenAI has developed a tool that with incredibly high accuracy can detect when text was generated by one of these large language models. And there have been tools like this before. There's stories where professors come into class and accuse half of the people in attendance of having cheated because they ran it through an online AI cheating plagiarism detector. And famously, they've been incredibly false. And then students, put their own professor's book through and it says it's generated by AI. I think they put the Bible through. It said generated by AI. But all of these problems, apparently OpenAI has solved them. They have the tool, but they are hesitant to release it because of the amount of quote unquote cheating it would disclose, that it would create. OpenAI is always worried about creating havoc on the entire world, every single release of theirs. Well, this is no different.
So they said that this is an accurate, very accurate, 99.9% effective method of watermarking.
As long as they leave me that 0.01 that I can claim.
Plausible
deniability.
Supposedly resistant to tampering, so that you couldn't just change meticulously to a different word. I think one of the reasons why they're not making this available or defaulted or whatever isn't because they're worried about the havoc that it would wreak. It's because they surveyed users and about 30% of people said, yeah, I'd be way less willing to use your software if it has an AI watermark in it, because then I could get caught. People want to cheat on their homework. Or
also, I'm just imagining, like, if I got an email and like parts of it were just automatically highlighted, generated by AI. Like, I'm not reading. Once I know it's generated by AI, I'm not reading it.
Yeah. Once I know that my quarterly reviews aren't really yours.
Just give me the 3 bullet points, please.
Right. I mean, honestly, to save everyone some time. We've talked about something like the watermarking before, where you can, just like Google Docs document, where you can see what was added and removed. And like, there's timestamps of what happened when. Adding on some cryptographic sign to show a person definitely wrote this. But even if you were to type in something just word for word that ChatGPT made in a different window or something, I think there have to be techniques to decide, oh, this is indicative of a person actually having written through something and done multiple drafts and so on. What if you just ever do the one draft? It's kind of impossible to tell unless you have this alleged watermarking system. And nobody wants to be told that they're a cheater, even if they're cheating.
So you can snap your fingers and this tool exists and everyone has access to it. Or you can never snap your fingers and society will never know definitively whether something was generated by AI or not. Do you snap those fingers? Is it imagine you're Thanos. Thanos. Yeah. Thanos. One of those Thaws.
One of them.
Yeah. And
the big purple guy.
With all the stones, You're going to snap your finger and the entire world will realize what was generated by AI. Do you snap those fingers? Daniel
I
Bishop.
think this is a question that is part of the teething pains that humanity is going through with this new class of tools. I wouldn't have the same question asked of me of, did you write this using a word processor? Yeah, I used like Google Docs or Microsoft Word or OpenOffice or LibreOffice.
Or did you use spell check and grammar check?
Yeah, right. Did you use spell check? Yeah, of course I did. I think LLMs are going to be a part of everyone's life in all of these kinds of facets. And so instead of dinging somebody for using an LLM, we need to be much more focused on what are the actual results of what's coming out of it. Now, in an educational system, I do think it's important for people to be able to be taught and to have some sort of test to make sure that you're actually internalizing the lessons that are coming your way. Maybe you have to handwrite stuff and you're not allowed to have your GPT contact lenses in while you're taking the test or whatever it ends up being. We do have to adapt to the present and future where LLMs are readily accessible to people that will help with generating text. So would I snap my fingers to say everyone knows that it's AI generated? I'm inclined to say no for text, but very inclined for images and video to say yes, which
why is that?
Inconsistent for the same reasons that we've discussed on this podcast before, which is we're getting into a post-truth society where you can see a realistic video of anyone doing anything. Problems are already cropping up associated with this. Election disinformation being almost the least of the problems here, but it is one of the problems. So images and text that are believable, images and video that are believable, that could be portraying incorrect things. You're spraying misinformation purposely, showing someone in bad light, whatever it ends up being.
I saw an image of Kennedy dropping a dead bear off in Central Park.
I heard about that. So
it was AI, apparently.
The Olympics are going on. For those of you who are listening to this much, much later, and there is a Turkish shooter that took the world by storm. He's got both of his eyes open, set one. He's not wearing the cyberpunk glasses and stuff. And he won, was it gold or silver?
Second, silver.
Okay, but still very impressive, very cool looking dude. Everyone kind of loved him. I saw some AI videos of him where the gun sort of morphs into like a can of Coke that he's drinking, or there were like 3 or 4 iterations that I've seen that all looked pretty realistic, other than the fact that like it ended up not being the same sort of thing. That it's like in a dream where I'm holding this gun and then all of a sudden I'm holding a soft drink. Oh, when did it change? It just sort of did change. There's that dreamlike quality that you see in a lot of, especially AI video, but from a image perspective, we're already kind of at a point where it's pretty easy to make anyone doing, holding, whatevering, anything. So then back to text. Why would I say that text shouldn't be held to the same standard? And the answer is it absolutely should. We should have this email was generated at least in part by OpenAI. 31.7% cryptographically signed. Does that make everybody start looking bad in their jobs? Because it turns out, what do you mean, Johnson, you weren't actually writing those reports? Yeah, no, I used ChatGPT to do it. We have to get to a point where that is normalized, where everybody's using it for everything, and we accept that. Or we as a society sort of have to pull hard in the other direction and say, okay, yes, we do have to implement all of these things, even for text. Kids are going to get thrown out of college for cheating, and at least some of them won't have actually been cheating. That kind of stuff is what really worries me. I've seen some posts online on like Reddit. Hey, I'm going to whatever the institutional review board or the dean's office, being accused of cheating. I could get thrown out of college. I didn't use AI. And we're hearing one person's side of the story. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But if they didn't and they got thrown out of college, their entire lives are altered, if not potentially ruined, based on these accusations that aren't necessarily true. That doesn't sit super right with me. As opposed to like, I guess took a picture versus used a AI image generator to make a picture. and won a competition or submitted something to the news saying that this was an actual event that happened. I think there should be legal ramifications for generating falsehoods and like submitting that as if it were a truth. But there has to be a burden of proof as well.
And
I don't want bad things to happen because of bad actors, and I don't want bad things to happen to people who just got caught up in it and were flagged as bad actors. And we're right now in a pretty muddy space of not being able to tell who did what.
Well, I don't snap my fingers either. Because I think that with society, we just need to adapt to the new technology and accept, again, this exists now. And maybe education needs to change a little bit in the context of the world that we are living in today. And whether that is, I know some schools just take all technology out of the school. Interesting approach. I have no idea whether that's valid. I would love to see that school up against a school that adopts all the latest technology. And then we, examine the once children, now adults 20 years later to see who reigns supreme. It's certainly incredibly important to learn how to learn, which if you're always just using a large language model to do your work for you, I'm not sure how you gain that skill.
I used a large language model literally yesterday to help a friend with a problem that I did not understand. He described the problem. It had to do with, he made a rendering engine in, I think, Unreal, which I already don't know what that means. He made a thing. Neat. The word black box rendering engine. No idea what that means. And that he was looking to do some color correction for colorblind people.
Okay.
And was having trouble getting like an RGB value pasted in to actually be a raw color. I don't know what a raw color is, to a rendered color. Literally no idea what the difference between those two is. And he kind of described it, and it completely passed over me. I had no idea what he was talking about. So I took what he was talking about and I put it into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT said, oh, this is what this thing is. This is what he's talking about. Here's 5 approaches. I said, that one sounds good. It was a Python-based approach. Okay, great. Make a linear regression model that will take some known raw and rendered values and then fit to a curve and make that curve and so on to like predict what these values are supposed to be. That friend took the code that I gave him verbatim and it worked. And I didn't learn a damn thing. I have no idea still what a raw color is. I don't know any of the intricacies of what he was talking about, but I helped somebody make a thing. So I got both the positive and the negative of this. I didn't learn, and I realized I didn't learn. And I know there's a negative aspect to like, I made this thing, but
you learned
don't
something.
Understand.
You learned about the skill of solving problems, leveraging AI, and that is a skill, and you do get better at it.
Sure. Just like being able to Google stuff is a skill.
Sure.
I remember a few episodes ago, you talked about if I'm going to Google something, I don't type in a sentence. I type in like 5 keywords.
Yeah. Of the keywords. And then I've got to like do my like file type : and then maybe I'll do like a site : restrict it to a specific site. Yep. And then I want to do like my date filter because
power user stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
And being able to utilize AI in a meaningful way to solve problems is a skill that I think more people are going to have to learn. Just like learning how to use search engines, people will learn to effectively use large language models to help them in their jobs. As it happened here, I was basically just a middleman for somebody, and zero understanding passed through my brain as I went. But it was neat with no understanding of a problem to present a working solution.
Until the AI becomes self-aware, and we don't need to do anything
Does
more
it all for us
because they do everything, and we have our monthly check that comes.
It's a full idiocracy future.
Yeah. And we do whatever we're most passionate about. I'm going to take the positive outlook rather than the negative version. But you have been listening to episode 28 of They Might Be Self-Aware. And if you want to learn more about this path towards this future of self-awareness, well, you are in the right place. Good news. And to be alerted, to be notified, to stay in the loop, all you need to do is hit that subscribe button. It's free. It's infinite.
Right there. You're already listening.
It's kind of like cheating. You probably should disclose to everyone.
You were going to do that anyways, weren't you?
Hey, just so you know, I've been listening to They Might Be Self-Aware. I just feel like I should like let you know that I probably know a little more than you. And you will know a little more by listening on all of the major podcasting platforms, iTunes, Spotify. Obviously, we're on YouTube. Maybe you're watching on YouTube, but maybe you're just listening to the audio. You ever wonder what we look like? Check it out on YouTube, or don't, because it's a little scary. I'm just going to be honest.
Preserve the illusion.
We're here every week, or twice a week now, 2 times.
We're trying a little experiment.
Yeah.
Smaller episodes, a little more focused, and a couple times a week.
But until next time,
They might be self-aware.